Jenkins.
Welcome to the Now. I'm Ashely Jenkins.
I'm Ryan Haywood.
Be careful with that HBO Go login, Game of Thrones fans. A new ruling by a U.S. court may put your binge watching in legal jeopardy.
In a move that has far-reaching applications to just about anyone who uses the internet, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled yesterday that sharing passwords is now a federal crime.
Federal crimes, those are the ones that they send you to the wall for, I think, and you have to take the black.
Yes, the pound me in the ass prison would be the one. Yes. If you haven't guessed, the ruling is a pretty big deal, since it came down from one of the most powerful courts in the country, basically one level before you get to the Supreme Court.
Now there are some tech experts out there wondering if the government has created a precedent that allows them to go after millions of innocent web users for something as simple as sharing your password.
The court case in question was United States versus NoSol 2, which centered around one man's use of a login credentials to access a system he wasn't technically authorized to use.
Which, in this particular case, is putting it mildly. David Nosal, the defendant in the case, is a former employee of executive research firm Korn Ferry, who left the company to start a rival business along with 3 of his other coworkers.
However, a big chunk of their business relied on using information from Korn Ferry's databases, which required login access to the old system. During the transition to start the new company, they used the username and password lent to them by a friend who was still working there.
They started a business where they required access to another company's stuff. Probably should have thought about that before you left the company. Naturally, the research firm didn't take too kindly to that once it was discovered, and here we are.
Enter the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act of 1986, a rather controversial, one-size-fits-all law with incredibly broad language that allows prosecutors to take people down for hacking who didn't do any hacking at all.
In this case, the government made special use of a particular phrase in the CFAA, which makes any, quote, unauthorized access of a computer or computer system totally illegal.
The prosecution's argument is that Nosal violated the CFAA by not having authorized access to Korn Ferry's databases once his employment ended. However, Nosal's defense claims that he did have access because it was given to him by a current employee of the company.
So the question the court was trying to decide here is whose access is the ultimate trump card in this case, the company or the person with the credentials who shared them.
It's not hard to see how that same logic can be applied to, say, Netflix, deciding to press charges on you for using someone else's login, even though an authorized user is the one who gave you access in the first place.
And that problem is what makes the ruling broad enough to apply to any number of really everyday routine scenarios, like logging into a friend's email to print something out for them, or using someone else's Amazon Prime account to get free shipping for an order you need quickly, or sharing Netflix logins or HBO logins.
And all these arguments didn't hold up in the court case. It was decided 2-1 that Nosal did indeed violate the CFAA by using a system he didn't have actual access to.
In the majority opinion, Judge Margaret McCowan said that the argument in this case about password sharing are completely unfounded, speaking out against the hypotheticals about the dire consequences of criminalizing password sharing. But these warnings missed the mark in this case. This appeal is not about password sharing.
She went on to say that the law is clear and that unauthorized access is an unambiguous, non-technical term that, given its plain and ordinary meaning, means accessing a protected computer without permission.
On the flip side, Judge Stephen Reinhart, who voted against the ruling, said that this sets a dangerous precedent that implicates millions of innocent civilians.
In his dissenting opinion on the matter, he said, "The majority does not provide, nor do I see, a workable line which separates the consensual password sharing in this case from the consensual password sharing of millions of legitimate account holders, which may also be contrary to the policies of system owners."
He went on to write that this ruling goes against the spirit of the CFAA, which has to do with hacking, and that this isn't a case of hacking.
Obviously, nobody here is questioning what Nosal did was in violation of the law. He was
just kind of shitty.
Yes, he was clearly using something without permission to steal another company's information to benefit himself. The problem at hand has more to do with using the CFAA to prosecute because of how broad the language is and how many erroneous things it can be applied to.
Yeah, in general, broad, non-specific language is really great for prosecutors, especially when it comes to federal laws like the CFAA. It means you can go for maximum punishment without worrying about little things like technicalities.
Oh, it's the details. That's where the devil is. That's why in court cases you typically see prosecutors trying to attach as many violations as possible to defendants. Some of them aren't going to hold up because of the letter of the law.
The Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, in particular, has been a favorite for prosecutors since it was introduced, and it's been criticized for broad application on a number of different occasions.
Like in the case of Matthew Keys, who was sentenced to 2 years in prison and massive fines for giving out login credentials to Tribune, which resulted in a stupid headline being live for 40 minutes before someone discovered it and took it down.
Weirdly enough, it was originally passed by Congress because of a 4-minute screening of War Games. That movie that's caused a lot of problems for all of us. It promptly sent legislators into a panic about hacking in the 80s and what terrible things could be done with it. You'd think that the movie Hackers would be the real problem for all of us.
No, that one was
Crash
too
override,
unrealistic.
yo!
Also, it's the Matthew Broderickness that made it happen, I think.
True.
On the flip side, the broadness of it is what has helped bring down a number of criminals who otherwise would not have been pegged by the law, which is one reason it's gone for so long without being amended. It's a favorite tool of prosecutors to take down people who are kind of hard to catch.
In some instances, it's been used against police officers even, who used police databases to look up information about people and use it against them unlawfully.
As for what all this means for sharing passwords, probably nothing in terms of your day-to-day.
Well, hopefully.
Well, that's,
hopefully.
Until someone decides to make it stick. Nobody's going to come after you for wanting to check out Voltron on your friend's account until they do.
Right. This does open the door for millions of people to be prosecuted if for some reason they find themselves in the state's crosshairs and they're just itching for something to pin on you, or if service providers like Netflix or HBO end up in positions where they're more or less obligated to shut that stuff down. I mean, Netflix did the proxy thing recently because they had to. I'm sure they would have loved to have all kinds of international users paying for their service if only they were allowed, but distribution being what it was, they were forced into a corner, and now this could happen with passwords too.
Yeah, if a service provider feels like you're doing something they don't like on their platform and find out that you shared your password 3 years ago with your grandma, for instance, then it becomes a problem.
That too, because then they could just go after you for that. It's not likely to happen if you're a regular law-abiding citizen, but it is concerning for civil liberty when something that most of the country does is suddenly declared illegal.
Considering the data about just how many users share things like HBO Go and Netflix accounts, that number is no small amount of people. Studies indicated that at least 10% of all households and 30% of all teens share their passwords at some point or another.
What do you guys think of the court's ruling that password sharing is a federal crime? Let us know in the comments.
And for future courtroom developments about how you can watch Game of Thrones, like this video and subscribe to The Know.
Man, this is a real problem for me. Like, Bernie and I share passwords for like car, our Nest, all kinds of stuff, because it's like the Internet of Things where you have like one login and password and an entire family can use it. Suddenly that's apparently not okay.
Well, actually, one login is a way that this could be circumvented, because you have services like LastPass, which takes a single password between your destination website and LastPass website. You log into that. They could have a whole market there for creating a sub accounts on those where you could authorize like a friend to have their own unique login to LastPass. You give them access to certain applications. That's still one password, one account, logging into one service at a time.
And the best part is it's already obfuscated, so you can give them access without even giving them the password.
Exactly.